It is said.
This semester I will be starting an esports club as an enrichment option at my school. Because of this, I thought I would take some time to analyze how people learn to play games like this and how that relates to my personal learning theory. We will engage in several different games as an esports team, but for the purposes of this video, I'd like to focus on how people learn to play Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a computer-based collectible card game or trading card game which was created by video game developer Blizzard Entertainment. It's set in their Warcraft universe. Now, the game is unique, but it is not completely unique. What I mean is that it's similar to other collectible card games that came before it, such as Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, and there are many other examples. And then these games, although they have their own kind of unique set of rules for the genre, they are like many other games that people have played before in the fact that they use some type of pieces or symbols, cards in this case, and that they follow a set of rules. Many of them are turn-based. So this is when we start to first see past experiences coming into learning how this game is played. Most people that are going to pick up this game have experiences playing games, if not collectible card games. So many of those skills and that knowledge can be transferred to Hearthstone as new people begin to play the game. Although people might have similar experiences playing similar games and might be familiar with some of the rules that are involved in playing Hearthstone, Blizzard Entertainment was smart enough to recognize that people coming into a brand new game are going to be in need of some scaffolding in order to effectively learn how to play the game. So they've created a very in-depth tutorial, which is being shown on screen right now, where players go through a set of stages, and throughout these stages, the game's tutorial introduces skills not all at once, but several skills at a time, building upon that knowledge until at the end of the tutorial you fight kind of a boss, which if you can defeat him shows that you have at least a beginning grasp on the game. I think we can draw some parallels here from this tutorial to Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. So Blizzard understands that people are going to come into the game with a certain set of knowledge. So a what is known element. However, because Hearthstone has a unique set of rules and skills and cards that are only relevant to it, supports are needed to help new learners be successful in the context of this game. So what Blizzard has done is during each stage of the tutorial, they nudge players a little bit further along in their knowledge to, by the time they finish the tutorial, they should be able to be a successful beginner of the game and move on to playing other players or at least doing the in-game practice rounds. As the final mission of the tutorial plays on the screen here, I'd like to take a minute to talk about why this tutorial is effective at teaching learners how to play the game. The first aspect we talked about was scaffolding. One important aspect of scaffolding is feedback, and feedback being given in a timely fashion. What's great about these tutorials is each mission has a specific set of skills that the learner needs to pick up in order to be successful with the game. And if they fail the mission. So they're not allowed to move on to the next tutorial mission until they have at least gained a tentative grasp on the skills that are being presented in that tutorial. So they're given very timely feedback. The next aspect of the tutorial that I'd like to highlight as to why it is effective is the authenticity of it. It used to be that you would buy a new computer game and it would come with this big booklet that had all the controls in it and maybe some strategies on how to play. But video game companies don't really do this anymore. Why is that? And it's because those booklets were not in the context of the game. People had trouble transferring that information to actually playing the game. When you do a walkthrough tutorial like this and you force the players to play the game actually and learn to play within the game, it's a much more effective learning strategy. In the tutorial, you're actually playing a version of the game, and you're using the same tools that you'll be given once the game starts. So all of the learning you're doing can be very easily transferred from the tutorial to actually starting to play the game. Because when you're playing through the tutorial, you are actually playing the game. And if you can be successful in the tutorial, that means that hopefully the Blizzard has scaffolded you up to the level you need to be, where you can start to do the practice modes and play other players at your level and have some success, where hopefully you'll have a good experience moving forward, and it'll provide the foundation that you'll need to continue to learn to become a better player. Now, the tutorial is effective at making you a beginner player and making it so you have some success as a beginner player. But what happens is you go out, you start to play the game a little bit, and you might have some success with the practice round on novice, and you might have some success with playing other lower level players. But eventually what happens if you stick to your same strategies is you start to lose. You start to become defeated. And I was trying out a new class, the warrior class, and I wasn't having a lot of luck. I kept getting beat over and over again. And I'd like to take a minute to talk about developing a need for learning. In my learning theory, I describe learning as a change in behavior or thinking. And I speak about how that change happens out of necessity. I think games are an absolutely perfect example of this, because what happens when you're playing a game is you want to win. And if you keep losing, it develops that need to change your behavior, change your thinking, change your strategy. And that need is going to be your motivation to start to learn. So I just want to show you what that could look like in the context of Hearthstone. So once I developed my need to learn, I started losing and I needed to win again. That pushed me to seek out more information, to seek out a community in which I could learn more about Hearthstone and about playing as the warrior class. How I did that is through Google. So I do a Google search and I start to look for more information. I then find other like-minded people who are also engaging in this game but maybe have more experience than I do. So I'm starting to look for some models that I can start to learn from. I ended up on this particular website that talks about kind of a starting warrior build. In Hearthstone, you can build a deck and you can swap the cards out and things like that. And a good starting point for me was just to learn what cards should I be playing with. Not having enough knowledge about the warrior class, I use this web page, hearthstoneplayers.com. And on this web page, they not only provide me with card recommendations for a starting deck, they also provide written instructions on how to play with the deck, and also tutorial videos of this deck playing against the other classes in the game. So it's a very comprehensive beginner's guide. But again, this is information that I needed in addition to the tutorial. So all of this information and this learning that I got from this site was brought on from my need to continue winning in this game. And now I'm not learning by myself, but rather I'm becoming part of a community where there's a shared body of knowledge as to how to play Hearthstone, how to play this game. I would like to make a point here that after reading about these tools, I don't necessarily know how to use all these cards and things. It's not until I actually get out, start practicing with them, and am using them within the context of the game that I really and truly understand how to use the card recommendations and the strategies that are being talked about on this webpage. To recap, how to learn to play Hearthstone. It starts with a need. The need in my case was wanting to learn to play Hearthstone because we're going to be using it in our esports club at my school. had to bring in my prior knowledge of games in general, as well as collectible card games, to begin my learning experience. These prior experiences, or my past learning, needed to be scaffolded through the tutorial to get me up to a level where I could be successful with the game. During this time, I was in the zone of proximal development. The tutorial was giving me feedback on my performance to let me know if I was on the right track, if my new learning was working or not. All of this has been done within the authentic context of the game, using the tools that I would actually be using when I started playing the game versus other players. This authenticity helped me transfer that knowledge to the actual game, where I started playing and started being successful, beating players that were of a similar skill as me. However, as I progressed in the game, I started meeting more and more challenging players, and I started to become defeated more often. This exposed a new need in me to do some new learning and learn some new strategies if I was to continue to be successful with the game, which spurred me to get involved with the learning community, where I could partake in a shared body of knowledge that would improve my performance much more so than just my individual skills alone. And this process will continue on as I continue to play the game and meet more challenging opponents. I'll have to do new learning and engage with new people, watching them, observing them, talking with them about my experiences, reflecting on matches and how they go. All this will lead to a constant learning cycle, which will hopefully lead to victory in future matches.